Okay. Now, I just recently posted something on my Facebook page about that Charlamagne Tomi Lahren debate that just went on, and there's a few things that I wanted to elaborate on further. First of all, keep in mind that when you're dealing with the mainstream media, this is not no game of checkers. It's a game of chess. And when you look at someone like Tomi Lahren or any of these political talking heads or journalists or whatever who are ambassadors for these news stations, they're not representing themselves as individuals. They have a think tank of people, writers, who strategize on what are the most effective points to make, how to steer and direct the conversation, what they need to consider, and how they need to respond to whatever their guest is going to say. And they're very well prepared. It's a well oiled machine before they invite any guest on their platform. And the intention is to bring that guest on that platform so that they can paint whatever picture or control the narrative that they've written in these back rooms with these think tanks. And some of us, when we go into these situations where we're speaking on their platforms, we don't consider that. We're sitting here playing a game of checkers when they're actually playing chess. So you look at this debate between Charlemagne and Tomi Lahren, and first and foremost, Charlemagne's playing away games. How come he didn't invite her to the Breakfast Club where he can have home field advantage, home court advantage? He can direct and steer the conversation on his and his, co-host terms and paint the picture and control the narrative in their favor. If he did invite her on a Breakfast Club, I don't see her there. And if he did give her that invitation and she didn't want to come, there's a reason why she didn't. She's smart enough to know I'm going to keep home court advantage. I'm not playing no away games. And whatever points I want to make, I want to control the narrative. But too many of us are so happy to be able to speak on other people's platforms that we put ourselves out there like that and end up being used as a tool and as a slave, where we're fighting to make certain points to their audience, and we weren't really prepared of how to handle ourselves when we're invited on these different type of platforms. Best case scenario, he shouldn't even have gone there. He should have just continued to critique her on his platform, the Breakfast Club. Give her an invitation there. If she don't come, I talk about why she didn't come. You know what I'm saying? But I wouldn't just be invited to go to where she's at. And you can tell that his only preparation for going there was to check out the comments she made about Beyonce and just to strive to um, address her on that. He didn't really do too much more research than that. You can tell he really didn't have no think tank of people strategizing of what she may say, the way you may need to respond to certain points that she makes or whatever. And he wore Wu-Tang hat, I guess, to represent the brand or something. I don't know, but he was totally unprepared, and we can't afford to continuously put ourselves in positions like that, especially given their platforms and what their intentions are for us being invited to their platforms playing these damn away games. Now, if you find yourself in a situation like that, right? Here is what is necessary to do. First and foremost, you're playing an away game. It's not your platform. It's not your form. You don't have any control, and you are automatically on the defense. And when you look at the videos, that's why it says Charlemagne versus Tomi Lahren, because he is the opponent. He's coming to her. It's her terms. It's her territory. She has the position of power and control. And the only way you can equalize that is you have to get out of the position of being on the defense. So if a person's inviting you somewhere and they're doing an interview with you, you have to shift the burden of proof back on them, especially if they're the ones asking the questions. Usually when we get into these scenarios where somebody's asking us questions and they sending this barrage of questions to us, we just feel compelled to just explain ourselves and just answer whatever they're asking us on their terms. Sometimes the questions that people are asking you are incorrect questions to begin with, but some of us still sit there and answer it without correcting the question that they asked you. So, for example, if somebody were to say, "Well, the the Black Panthers, do you think that it was good for Beyonce to represent the Black Panthers, given that they were rooted in violence and this, that, and the third?" Some of us would just sit there and answer the question, not even correcting the fact that the question she's asking is inappropriate to begin with. So, in order to shift that dynamic of power, right? If somebody's asking you a stupid ass question, before you answer that, you need to ask them a question for clarity in order to expose how stupid the question was to begin with. So if somebody were to sit there and say, "Well, the Black Panthers were rooted in violence, and how do you think that she should be supporting them, this and the third?" Your response should be, "Well, well, what do you mean by rooted in violence? Do you mean like, that was a part of their 10-point program, and that's how they started as far as violence, as opposed to like the free breakfast program that they were doing?" I'm not sure. Can you clarify your question? So when you do that, you force them to revamp what they asked you in the first place. And in the process, they're going to expose themselves for asking a dumbass question. So then when they willfully revamp the question and ask you it again, then it may be more on a level term where you can actually respond in a proper way. But if you're just sitting there and just whatever somebody's asking you, you feel compelled to answer them, you're going to continuously be on the defense. The power is always going to be in their position, and they're going to direct and control that conversation and make you look whatever way they intended to make you look in the first place. So the only thing that you can do to manage that conversation is to ask them questions for clarity. Because as long as you're able to do that, you're putting them on the same level or playing field as you already are, because they're on the defense now. You're putting the burden of proof back on them, and they have to clarify what it is that they're asking you. And that's just one strategy that you can use if you find yourself in a position like that. And you can tell that Charlamagne, he wasn't prepared like that. He didn't have a think tank or people around him to give him insight to say, "Yo, this is the way you need to handle this. This is the way you need to handle that. If she comes at you from this angle, this is the best angle that you need to approach." That is the way that we need to do things whenever we're on somebody else's form, wherever we're playing these away games and somebody has us on the defense. When that news story came out some time ago about Jay-Z's medallion he was wearing and what was the 5% of symbolism behind it, and the press reached out to me for my perspective on that as a subject matter expert, I gave them one quote. I did not do any interviews. And there were thousands of people reaching out to me for interviews and, "Could you elaborate on this? Could you do this?" No, hell no. No. Did no interviews and just issued an official public statement in writing, a transcript, on my website, and referred everybody to that. Because even if somebody were to take that and to remix it and to chop and screw it and do some more other shit to it to make it seem like I said something different, you could always refer to the original, because that was my official public statement. I wasn't doing a bunch of interviews or whatever where I can be bombarded or ambushed by these questions or whatever and be unprepared for how to handle these type of questions, because I know that the mainstream media already had an intention of how they wanted 5%ers or our people, period, to look. And some of us have to be much smarter when it comes to that. If you have your own platform, use that to speak on the issues and to control the narrative from our perspective. Don't feel so compelled to just answer people's questions, and because somebody wants an interview and they want you to, you don't got to answer nobody's damn questions. It don't matter who they are. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to share this. If you haven't checked out that debate, check it out, study it, and compare it to what I'm actually explaining right now. And willfully, it'll give us a lot more insight on how we need to handle ourselves better when we're dealing with this mainstream media, because this is not no game of checkers. This shit is chess. Peace.